Ever catch yourself walking through a school and picturing yourself not as a student, but as, like leading the place? This time, we're taking a deep dive into what it means to be a deputy head teacher.
Sounds interesting, right?
Yeah, and to help us unpack it all, we're turning to RoleCatcher.com.
It's a great platform, by the way, especially if you're thinking about, well, taking your career to the next level.
Definitely. So deputy head teacher, it's kind of a mouthful, but what does it actually mean?
Honestly, when I think about this role, it's not just about pushing papers. It's about, like, really making a difference in a school. It's a pretty big deal.
RoleCatcher uses some pretty strong words to describe the job. Words like supporting, implementing, even enforcing. It sounds like a lot on their plate.
Yeah, it definitely is.
So, how does all of that actually translate to a typical day?
Picture this. You're the right-hand person to the principal, right? You're there to make sure the school runs smoothly day in and day out. But it's not just about keeping the lights on. We're talking about shaping the school's environment for students and staff.
So, putting those guidelines and policies into practice, making sure everything runs according to plan.
Exactly.
And let's not forget about the curriculum itself. That's got to be a huge part of the job, right?
Absolutely. It's about bridging the gap between, the big vision for the school and what's actually happening in the classroom.
I see what you mean.
So one day you might be, say, checking out a new teaching method, and the next you're organizing training sessions for the teachers.
Keeping everyone on their toes. I can see how that would be both challenging and rewarding.
Totally. You're aiming for that, that top-notch learning experience for every student.
Speaking of challenges, I remember observing a school leadership team once, and they were dealing with a really tough student situation. It made me think about those critical thinking and problem-solving skills that RoleCatcher mentions.
Oh, for sure. Those skills are, absolutely essential, especially in those moments where you need to act quickly but also carefully.
Yeah, and you can't let the pressure get to you, right?
Exactly. You need that calm head on your shoulders because you're not just, a disciplinarian. You're setting an example for the whole school.
It's about being a role model. So it sounds like it takes a special kind of person to thrive in this role. Someone who's passionate, but also, like you said, able to handle the heat. RoleCatcher even uses the word demanding.
Yeah, and they're not kidding. You're constantly juggling tasks, dealing with unexpected issues, and interacting with so many different people.
Students, staff, parents, it's a whole mix.
It is, and that's where the passion comes in. Because honestly, those long days, those tough decisions, it's all worth it when you see that you're making a difference.
It really makes you think about that, saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Totally.
But even if you love it, you've got to have the right skills.
Absolutely.
And RoleCatcher really dives into some important ones for a deputy head teacher.
Yeah, they really highlight a bunch of key areas like monitoring, and then there's learning strategies, and of course, communication skills. It's a pretty long list.
It is. Yeah. And I'm curious about that monitoring part.
Okay.
It's one thing to keep track of your own to-do list, but we're talking about an entire school here. How does a deputy head even begin to monitor all of that?
It's about having your finger on the pulse of everything that's going on. You're not just watching things happen, you're actively looking for ways to make them better.
I see.
So maybe that means you're looking at student data, trying to figure out who's struggling, or maybe you're spending time in classrooms, seeing what's working and what's not.
Makes sense.
Or you could even be evaluating school policies, seeing if they're still effective or if they need a refresh.
It's like being a detective for education.
Huh, I like that.
Instead of solving crimes, you're solving these puzzles to help students reach their potential.
Exactly, and that's where the learning strategies bit comes in, because the deputy head needs to be like a champion for good teaching, right?
Right.
And that means understanding all these different teaching methods and how to use them in the real world, with real students.
So it's not just about knowing the theory, but about applying it to each unique classroom.
You got it. Because one student might do really well with hands-on learning, while another student needs more structure.
Interesting.
A deputy head can help teachers figure out those individual needs and make sure everyone has a chance to thrive.
That makes sense.
And speaking of adapting, let's not forget about communication skills.
Oh, yeah. Communication has to be huge in this role.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're talking to students, teachers, parents. It's like a whole communication obstacle course.
It really is. And RoleCatcher really stresses how important active listening is, and of course, being able to communicate clearly both when you're speaking and writing.
Which reminds me, I'm sure there's a ton of paperwork involved.
Oh, yeah, mountains of it.
Reports, policies, all that fun stuff.
That's part of the job, too. So good reading comprehension is up there with the other skills for a reason.
Definitely. It's a lot to manage.
It is. And speaking of a lot to manage, that brings us to critical thinking and problem solving.
Which feels like it's kind of woven into everything a deputy head teacher does.
It totally is.
But what are some of those challenges those problem-solving skills come in handy for?
Imagine this. It's the middle of the day, and suddenly you're short-staffed because a couple teachers are sick.
Oh, no.
Or maybe there's a student going through something really tough at home and it's affecting their schoolwork.
That's rough.
These are those make or break moments where a deputy head has to think fast and make smart choices, even with limited information.
And probably under a lot of pressure, too.
Exactly. They've got to be the calm in the storm,
Yeah.
keep the ship running smoothly.
I like that analogy.
And when you're talking about leading a team through those tough times, well, that's where leadership and management come in.
So more than just managing schedules.
Way more.
It's about inspiring a whole team of people.
Exactly.
Creating an environment where everyone feels supported, but also motivated to do their best.
That's the dream. It's about giving teachers the tools and the encouragement they need to succeed. And sometimes that means having those difficult conversations, addressing problems head on.
It's a balancing act for sure.
It really is. You're trying to support your staff while also making sure the school is moving in the right direction.
And on top of all of that, the world of education never sits still, right?
Never a dull moment.
New technology, new teaching methods, new policies. It's a lot to keep up with. RoleCatcher actually calls it staying updated. And honestly, it sounds kind of exhausting.
It definitely takes effort. You have to be committed to lifelong learning,
Right.
going to conferences, taking courses, even just reading up on the latest research. It all makes a difference.
Like you need another degree just to keep up with the one you have.
It can feel that way sometimes, but that's part of what makes it exciting, right? There's always something new to discover, always room to grow.
I like that outlook. So for anyone feeling a little overwhelmed, especially after hearing about everything a deputy head does, that's where RoleCatcher's AI tools come into play. These aren't just like fancy add-ons, are they?
Not at all. These are serious game changers, especially for someone serious about becoming a deputy head.
Like that CV builder, for instance.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Because we've talked about how competitive this field is.
For sure.
Your CV needs to stand out.
Absolutely. And that's what the AI does. It goes through job descriptions, picks out the most important skills, and then helps you highlight those in your CV.
It's like having a personal marketing team for your career.
Exactly. That helps you put your best foot forward, show them what you've got.
Love it. And then there's that interview practice tool, which I have to admit, even the thought of an interview makes me nervous.
Me too. Those nerves never really go away, do they?
No, not really.
But imagine being able to practice beforehand, like actually rehearse your answers and get feedback.
Yeah.
That's what this tool does.
Wow. That's amazing.
The AI analyzes everything, even your body language, and gives you suggestions.
It's like having a personal coach in your pocket.
Exactly. And when you're prepared, you feel more confident, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of being prepared, that job spec analysis tool sounds incredibly useful.
Oh, yeah. That one's huge, especially in a field like education that's constantly evolving.
Right. Because
Yeah.
you've got to stay on top of everything.
Exactly. So you upload a job description and the AI breaks it down for you. It shows you exactly what skills and experience they're looking for.
So you can see where your strengths lie.
Yes. But it also shows you where you might need to, brush up on some skills or gain some new experience.
So you can fill those gaps and become an even stronger candidate.
Exactly. It gives you a roadmap for your career.
This has been such an insightful deep dive into the world of a deputy head teacher.
It's been fun.
Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap things up?
It's a challenging path, no doubt, but it's also incredibly rewarding. If you're passionate about education, if you love a good challenge, and if you're ready to make a real difference, this could be the perfect role for you.
And remember, resources like RoleCatcher are there to help you every step of the way. Their AI tools can be such a game changer in terms of boosting your confidence and helping you put your best foot forward.
100%.
So to all our listeners out there, what will you do today to take that first step towards your dream career? Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep striving to make a difference.